The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers. United Chargers presents the Grizzly range of EV chargers. There's the original Grizzly Classic, a powerful, heavy-duty, portable EV charging station built to withstand the toughest conditions. The Grizzly Duo, a dual-port unit designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a small portable charging station built with an indoor-outdoor rated cast aluminium enclosure. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. All Grizzly chargers come with a convenient 24-foot cable and the ability to adjust the current from 16 amps all the way up to 40 amps. That's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, they're IP67 rated. Built in Canada with the highest quality materials. Order yours now at unitedchargers.com. That's unitedchargers.com.
Hello, welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's April the 5th, 2024, and this is episode number 31. Thank you very much for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about Chevrolet Silverado EV getting its price lowered and its range increased, Ford delaying its T3 electric pickup and large SUV, Tesla's big sales miss, and of course, much, much more. I'm Dominic Yoni, and joining us today is the jocund Mr. Tom Malogny, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the mensch, Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which is available on all the best podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Out of Spec Studios, where he produces high voltage videos for a number of YouTube channels, and where it's very dark over there right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, Kyle's spot there is just like the image of he's there. He can hear us, and we can hear him when he speaks. And he's driving today, so no camera. All right, so let's kick the show off with the EV News Daily Weekly Reporting Roundup.
All right, we'll start with some news coming out of EVs in Norway. And EVs could overtake petrol cars by the end of the year we're in. The Nordic country of 5.5 million people wants to be the first nation to end combustion. You've known for a long time that EVs are 90 or 95% of new car sales for some time. It's a great metric to talk about. What about the established car park that's on the road? Well, at the minute, BEVs, 24%, and petrol cars, 26%. So by the end of the year, of the 2.9 million cars on the road in Norway, it could well be that EVs are the dominant powertrain. EVs in their neighbour Sweden at 58% share of new cars sold, with the Volvo EX30 having a big climb to the number 2 spot. Model Y from Tesla still number 1. EX30 deliveries have begun here in the UK to largely positive reviews. I've seen some negativities around the software. Some people don't like the layout and the user interface. Some people having trouble with the keyless entry and some of the software bits that are due to arrive on that vehicle. Some saying it's a little bit half-baked, but otherwise the performance and the styling people are generally liking. Tesla is looking for locations in India, according to media reports yesterday, for a proposed $2 to $3 billion electric car plant. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. They haven't broken ground in Mexico yet. And by all accounts, they've got something like 2.5 million cars capacity now at Tesla. And if they repeat the terrible quarter that they just had, they'd be making 1.6 or 1.7 million cars this year with capacity of 2.5 million. That is a disaster in the capital-intensive world of car making. So the last thing they'll be doing is, I think, making Mexico. Certainly nothing in India. Interestingly, it came after some very bad news. So you can draw the conclusions from that new Indian Gigafactory report yourself. A Reuters report this week saying that it's Elon Musk killing Tesla. With his reputation going down, survey data by Reuters found that Tesla's so-called consideration score, which is a very real thing, asking people, would you consider buying this consumer product, from toothbrushes to cars? It's a metric used by Caliber to track consumer interest in brands. And the I would buy or continue to buy score for Tesla since November 21 has gone down from 70% to 31%. It's a very real metric, which puts something on the bones of what I've seen lots of people on social media saying, which is Elon Musk is putting people off buying Teslas by going, political and things, like that, which I've always had some doubts around. So it's good to see some numbers on that, but do you subscribe to that? Would you want to leave a comment below with your thoughts, or maybe in the live chat? Is Is there any truth to that? Do you think he has any influence on people buying the car that they want to buy? We'd love to hear from you. Congratulations to Rivian joining the 100,000 club. Its latest quarterly vehicle report showed that they produced 14,000 of their trucks and SUVs and reiterated some good guidance for this year. But 100,000 vehicles. Well done to RJ Scaringe and the team. It's been a very, very long road at Rivian to get where they are. Lots of work still to do, but a great achievement. Lucid Air has a $30,000 discount on in-stock vehicles. The Air Pure has a vehicle price of $79,000, including destination. Then they have their so-called credit scheme. So there's the Air Credit and the Pro Credit for some of their bolt-on options. But it brings the car down to about $63,000 to get into a Lucid. Firefighters extinguished a blaze that destroyed a Lucid Air prototype at their Newark headquarters. It was one of the early ones from 2019 and 2 other vehicles as well. The company praising emergency responders for extinguishing the blaze. Toyota is offering a $10,000 discount off leasing of their BZ4X in the US. We don't generally talk about whether you should buy or lease a vehicle. It's your choice, but I'll point out some lease prices. $299 a month for 3 years if you put $4,000 down at signing. BMW's cheapest lease vehicle in the US is now, yeah, you got there before me, an electric car. The i4 is $499 a month over 3 years with $4,500 due at signing. Some great lease deals out there. Like I say, we're not recommending you lease, buy, whatever, but you do what's right for you. Just pointing out there are some good lease deals out there at the moment. At the Ford Mustang Mach-E, sales are soaring after recent discounts. You may have heard lots of negativity around Ford and EVs this week, and we'll discuss that on the podcast today. But they sold over 9,500 Mach-Es, a 77% increase over the same time last year, Q1 2023. But Ford are delaying their all-electric SUV and truck to focus on plug-in hybrids and delaying their EV plans until 2030. The Stellantis CEO is jumping on the Lucid train and echoing their recent statements that actually what is essential to EV batteries is efficiency and making the vehicles that we've got, which are already great, even better. That cuts the weight and the price. BYD's Seagull could launch in the UK as a Dacia Spring rival. It could become Britain's cheapest EV. And a nice little story to end on at Disneyland, Disney's Tomorrowland, which I've not been to Disney in, or what am I, 45 years old? So that would be about 40 years since I was last in Florida at Disneyland. But at Tomorrowland, they are ditching any gas cars at Disneyland's Tomorrowland. Autopia, isn't it? It's called. And going EV there. It's a great first step. And that is your news for this week.
All right. All right. That's great. See, so this week, thank you, Martin. So this week, why don't we start with our podcast crew, see what's going on. So let me see. Tom, I don't know how many of our viewers are familiar with the brand Enphase, but I bet you a lot are familiar with Clipper Creek. So I mentioned these companies because this week you put the Enphase IQ 50 40 amp EV charger through your incredibly tough testing regime. So I was wondering if you could tell us about the Clipper Creek connection and how the IQ50 held up.
Sure. So to begin with, right behind me here is the Enphase IQ50 on the wall. I'm still using it, even though I finished up the review. I try to, whenever I do these reviews of the products, I almost try to use that unit exclusively to charge all my EVs for a month. So I get good experience using it before and then a little bit afterwards, and get familiar with the app and everything. So yeah, as far as the connection, Clipper Creek was one of the original, it might even be the original, I think it's the original electric vehicle charging EVSE manufacturers in North America. They started, I want to say like 2005, and it's like, think about it, there were no electric vehicles in 2005. So like a group of people got together and like, let's make something that has absolutely no practical use, but we think it's going to in the future. So I don't know how that happened, but that's how I envision it happening. And so Clipper Creek, started in California, and they made electric vehicle charging equipment. They made the charging equipment for the original Tesla Roadster, for portable charging equipment for just about all the early electric vehicles. So this company Enphase, who does solar installations and like home energy management systems, bought Clipper Creek 2 years ago in 2022. And they basically took Clipper Creek's products, rebranded them, made some improvements. So while it looks exactly like, let's say, a Clipper Creek HCS 50, it is, the body of it is, but they also made some improvements, and they made it a Wi-Fi connected smart charger. Clipper Creek didn't have smart chargers. They had this extra, they actually, I should say that you could buy a Wi-Fi connected smart charger from Clipper Creek, but it was like a third-party add-on, and it was clunky. It never really worked well. So this is the first time it's integrated into the unit. So I reviewed it, and it had all of the positives, in my opinion, that Clipper Creek had. Clipper Creek makes some of the most durable, best built, most robust charging equipment that you could buy anywhere. You'll see there's Clipper Creek chargers out in the public, in California in particular. There's a lot of Clipper Creek public chargers that are in parking lots free. You know, that back, you know, in the early days of electric vehicles, people installed level 2 chargers all over the place for free. They weren't even connected with anything. They just let people charge because there were so few electric vehicles out there and the cost of energy was so low. They just installed these, and they're still in use. There's some of them out there that are 10 years old, 12 years old, and they're still just chugging along. And that's, you know, that's something to say for public charging, because public chargers get the crap beat out of them. So they make fantastic products. What Enphase did was they came in, they looked at some of the weaknesses, and they improved them. They added the Wi-Fi connected app. They have some cool features in the app. You can pair it with if you have Enphase Solar, you can pair it with your solar array and use the system to charge your EV exclusively from excess solar generation. So you can tell it, only charge my car with excess solar generation. That's something that a surprisingly high amount of my followers ask me for. I don't really personally care about that. I have a solar array at my house, but I know I'm producing a certain amount of solar electricity every day. And when I'm not using it, it goes out to the grid. And I'm fine with that. My neighbors use it. It's not like it gets wasted. So I don't feel like it has to go into my battery. Later on, when I come home at night and plug in, if I'm charging from grid energy, I look at it as a wash, because I say, you know, I pumped out 40 kilowatts to the grid earlier today. Now I'm taking it back. But some people are really want to only put renewable energy in a battery, and that's fine. I'm not talking down to those people, but you can do it with this system. There's a few systems out there you can do it with. You could also do it with the Emporia system, but you can do it with this system. So it does that. It also has some cool features like this thing called Storm Guard, which is a really good feature. What if you enable Storm Guard through the app? What happens is if you get a National Weather Service alert in your area, the car will, as soon as you plug it in, it'll start charging, and it'll supersede schedules. It'll charge to 100%. So it's kind of like, if you don't know there's a storm coming tomorrow and your EV's plugged in and you're on a time of use schedule, it'll immediately start charging it and charge it to 100%, even if you have the schedule set to stop at, you know, at a lower state of charge. So that's a pretty cool feature, and something that the other companies don't have. But other than that, it has a really good cable. They improved the cable, has a better connector than what Clipper Creek used to use for their HCS line of chargers. So they really did take it and improve it. The negative on the unit is the price. It's really expensive. Ooh. For a 40 amp charger, it's $835 for the plug-in unit, $809 if you're going to get the if you're going to hardwire it. But one thing they do that I've never seen any other charger do, if you get any of the plug-in units, they give you a Hubble NEMA 1450 or NEMA 650 outlet in the box.
Oh.
So they basically say, if you're going to use this as a plug-in unit, we don't want you using one of those cheap outlets that, you know, cost $10 and are going to melt. So we're going to send you a good quality NEMA 1450 or NEMA 650 outlet. I mean, that's got to add $50 to the cost of the unit in itself. I probably wouldn't go in that direction. I like the idea, but it's pushing up the price even higher. You know, I would probably, if I was in charge of Enphase, drop the price down, whatever this is costing you, sell it for less, but then have a big warning on the thing. If you're going to use this as a plug-in unit, we highly recommend you purchase one of these outlets because they're made for EV charging and so forth and so on. Because like a person, for me, for instance, that already has a good quality outlet, I'm paying for it and I'm not going to use it. So that while I think it's a really good effort and I like the idea of educating people, don't go out and buy a crappy one. But it's a really good, well-made unit. So yeah, and Nebula says it's all American made. So yeah, expensive. I don't think these are still made in America since Enphase took over. Not all of them. I think they're going to be moving production to America, but I don't believe they're all made in America right now. But we talk about all American made, so it's got to be expensive. We're going to talk about this in a future episode. Just yesterday, I was up in Toronto in Canada, and I visited our channel sponsor here, United Chargers, and they make all their products in Canada. Yet they're the most competitively priced chargers on the market, really. So they're kind of blowing away that thing that, well, you got to make it in China for it to be affordable. You can get. There's right behind me. There's two 40-amp chargers. They're both smart chargers. One costs $835 over here, and the other one on this side costs $399. So and Grizzlies are made in North America and made in Canada. So where labor's even more expensive. You can't just say, hey, you can't make products here in North America and make it at a competitive price. So, but anyway, we'll talk about that when I'm going to talk about my visit up to the United Chargers factory in a future episode. So anyway, the unit scored 90 points on my Charger Rater, not tremendously high. It really got hurt by the fact that it was the cost of the charger, which I weigh a lot of on value and cost when I do my ratings. But other than that, it's a really solid unit. And if you're going to be installing your charger outside, particularly if you're, say, a property manager and you're going to put 4 or 5 chargers outside, you should consider this because it is a solid unit that's going to last a long time.
Nice. Wow.
Oh, and one more thing. It comes with a 5-year warranty, standard.
And how does that compare with other chargers in the industry?
It's longer than pretty much anybody. Nobody, maybe 1 or 2 other companies out of all the charging equipment I've reviewed has a standard 5-year warranty. So they're able to back it up because they know the thing's rock solid and it's going to last.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's funny when I go to they use these Clipper Creek units at my Whole Foods. And they've been there for years, and they get a lot of use and abuse. Yeah. And they're up, 90-some% of the time. I go there, they're working.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
They're solid, Dom. They're really solid. Go ahead.
I guess that's part of what you're paying for, then, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, there are other really solid units out there that are built well that cost less.
Okay.
But Brandon, who knows charging equipment, says they're bulletproof, and they are. They really are. But to me, it's hard for me to get past that price because it's so much more expensive. If it was $100 more than a comparable unit, I'd say, okay, that went into better materials, better quality. Even if it was $200 more, but it's twice as expensive as some other units out there, and that's hard for me to get past. I do like this unit, and I certainly see this unit's made in Mexico. So they did move the manufacturing from U.S. when Clipper Creek was doing it in California to Mexico. It's a tough sell. That's my only thing, but it definitely works, and it's going to last you a long time. So and that's the thing. People always ask me, Tom, what's the best charger? There's no one single best charger out there. There really isn't. You have to select what's important to you. Some people think that, just reliability and durability is the most important thing. I just want to buy something and not worry about it for 10 years. Okay, here's something that you should consider if that's the case, because these things are just as tough and as robust as anything on the market. Are you going to pay a couple $100 more? Yeah, but if you have that money and and longevity and quality is the most important thing for you, this might be what you should go for.
I think all chargers should at least have the option of charging from solar straight to your car. And we don't have that that same pricing in and out. So I'm 7 pence in overnight and 28 pence in during the day. So it's much better for me to any extra to come in during the day to the car, because it's 15 pence out. And that's, with Octopus, that's pretty good actually to be 15 pence out. I think I've not compared prices recently with all the others, but and I'm not even signed up to that because I've got a reasonably 5.9 kilowatt peak solar array, and any excess we get we use. So we either put it in the home battery or it goes in one of the two cars. And so I've never got around. We've got an export meter, never got around to registering it, and I probably should do, because we get the odd little dribs and drabs that go back to the grid, but we're paying a lot of money in the day, 28 pence, and that's come down from the 40 something, I think it was, when Ukraine got invaded and the world energy prices went crazy. And so I think it's important that if you have solar, all chargers really should offer that option. It depends whether it's part of the ecosystem. I've wondered whether I should be part of the Solar Edge ecosystem, because I've got the Solar Edge battery, Solar Edge inverter, Solar Edge, what are they called? Optimizers, not microinverters, optimizers under the panels. And they make a car charger as well. And you think sometimes actually being in an ecosystem, as long as it's a good one, is worthwhile, because in one app I'd have control of it. But there's nothing wrong with the My Energy unit that I've had in. I got the Zappy version 2. It's maybe 3 years. It's an outside mounted unit. It's looking a bit worse for wear, I must admit. These days it has weathered. It's kind of undercover a little bit because we've got an overhang of our roof, so it doesn't get the worst of the weather. All chargers wear though, don't they? And the little flap, it's an untethered unit, and we never ever unplug it. But the little flap spring broke pretty quickly. I could have had that replaced under warranty. I never did. But otherwise, it's a good unit, and it works with Octopus because they take control of my car charging, which is a whole separate subject with the Intelligent Go tariff. So when I plug my car in at any time of day, I say to my energy company, hey, I'd like my car to be charged at 80% by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. They then work out what they're paying for energy on the wholesale market and when it's cheapest to charge the car, and I give control of my car charging over to my energy company. That is a leap of faith for some people. I'll say it works very well, actually. Not without teething trouble sometimes. But again, that is an integration because my energy company works with my charging company. So all these little things, as Tom mentioned, your personal situation, have a look at what you need from a wall charger, because some of them have other functionality. Sometimes you need an extra something that works with your personal situation.
Right. All right. Hey, Tom.
Well, real quick, before we move on, I just want to point something out. And Martin, if you could do me a favor, pull up a video on YouTube called "This Baseball Bat," and I want to pull up a comment by Mr. All Electric Car Lunacy. Throw a steel ball at the charger. Only Grizzly's going to fare well. I'm willing to bet. I would bet against that, Mr. Electric Car Lunacy. There's two other chargers. The Flow Home would absolutely pass that, and I do believe this charger that I just did, which is basically an HCS charger by Clipper Creek redone. Watch this test that they did when they were designing it. To show how strong it was, they beat it with a variety of different things. Now that's a rubber mallet, so you could say, oh, okay, it's rubber. But the test gets better, and you can see how hard he's pushing. The thing breaks. So he tests it with a bunch of things, and I like the baseball bat at the end. So yeah, a bunch of people take swings at it, and I mean, the best part is the bat finally breaks at the end. I think this guy's the one that breaks the bat. Let me see, and no, but look at that. I mean, they're swinging. And
hey, Tom, while we're
he breaks it. He breaks it.
Question for you.
Yeah, there, and well, Kyle, 1 sec. It bounces back. And it hits, I think that's a Corvette, and dents the car. Why would they park that car so close to this test? But anyway, I always thought that was funny. So that you want to talk about the unit being tough. These even though they're plastic, are incredibly tough. Sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
No, so just curious about this Stormwatch situation. So I guess I could understand how the charger could override its internal timers on time of use, but how does it actually set the car to go to 100%? I'm guessing there's got to be some sort of communication back end between certain models that are supported.
Yeah, no, I in my review I talk about it. I kind of glossed over it here. If you're going to use that, Kyle, you disable your in-car charge limits and your in-car scheduling. You let the vehicle do all the scheduling.
But you mean you let the charger do all the scheduling? But
yeah, the charger, not the vehicle anymore.
How does the charger know what percent the vehicle's at? Because the way that level 2 communications, I mean, you know that, you guys know this, but
it doesn't know
state of charge.
Right. So what I'm saying is, you would, in your vehicle, you'd have to have it set to charge to 100%. Where whatever the vehicle is set to stop at, it will stop at. But you should disable your vehicle scheduling if you own this, right? And then set the limit to whatever you want to. Now, I guess it wouldn't go to 100% in the car. It would go to 100% to what the car is set to charge at. If you're set to charge at 90%, it'll stop the charge at 90%. But what they recommend is, if you think if you think an event's going to come up, this week, set your car to 100% so you don't forget about it a few days earlier, in case there's an alert that comes in overnight. And, the car will immediately charge to 100%. It can't override your in-vehicle's limit, or even your vehicle's schedule will take precedent. So you disable the schedule, and, that's how it works. So it won't always charge to 100%. It won't override what the car is telling it to do.
All right. And Brandon Flash asks, doesn't Tesla do this better for Tesla drivers? Is he talking to us? I don't know. Anyway, if no one knows what that's about, I'm not sure either. Maybe he was talking about something else in this conversation here. But Tom,
they do it with the home with the Powerwall, don't they? They certainly do it with Tesla is pretty integrated with the weather, and if there's going to be a weather event or power cuts,
right?
Certainly, it probably works with the cars as well, because it's very integrated, isn't it? But certainly with the Powerwall, the
Powerwall does something like that.
They will override that and fully charge it. Yeah,
right. I think the Powerwall, when it knows there's a storm coming, charges up full or something. Yeah. All right, Tom. I see you also had written a piece on Inside EVs this week, in which you share the news that New Jersey, the state with the most amazing EV incentives, is introducing an annual fee for EV drivers. So, without going too crazy, like time-wise, what's up with that?
Yeah. So, it was just signed into law last week, and the whole EV road tax thing is a subject that I've talked about in the past. I've written articles about it on Inside EVs. I do believe that electric vehicle drivers should be paying their fair amount of road tax. I think that's more than fair. But I had always said that I don't think it should really happen until we occupy a certain amount of vehicles on the road. Martin mentioned earlier about the difference between new car sales and the percentage of EVs on the road, like in Norway. Here in New Jersey, the electric vehicles share, I think, 1.8% of the vehicles on the road. Now, new car sales are higher than 1.8%, but there's a lot of legacy vehicles out there. So I had always said that I didn't think we should institute a road tax for EVs until we were up around 4 to 5%, right? That's still a small percent, but hey, now it's starting to really bite into it. And until that, we should use it as an incentive. So we just signed into law. It's $250 a year for EV this year. It goes up $10 each of the next 4 years. So in 2029, I guess it'll be $290 per year per EV, which is much higher if you compare the average amount of miles driven here in the state of New Jersey. I think it's like 12 or 13,000 miles per person, something like that. We tend to drive less here than some of the states in the Midwest that, things are wide open. You drive further. So 12, 13,000 miles per year. If you do the math, it's nearly double what comparable ICE cars cost. So not only will we'll be paying more. And as I said, I think we should pay our fair share. That's 100%, but not to pay nearly double what everybody else pays. But it gets worse. Because here in New Jersey, a few years ago, we started this law where, more than a few years ago, I think it was 8 or 9 years ago, when you buy or lease a new car, you pay 4 years of registration fees up front at the dealership. The state is making this road tax be billed in along with your registration fees, which means starting in July, I guess in 2 or 3 more months, every new EV that's purchased or leased in New Jersey, you're getting hit with $1,060 upfront fee, which, at least if you buy a gas car, you pay those taxes over the next 4 years, as you're driving your vehicle. But here you're prepaying it along with prepaying the registration for 4 years.
Right.
So it's a lot of money, and it's definitely going to, it's going to hurt electric vehicle sales for sure. It's one of the biggest impediments I think we have right now with electric vehicles is the price, the dealers can't communicate the overall total cost of ownership of the vehicle. We've talked about this here before. You go to a Ford dealership, there's a Lightning sitting there. It's $68,000. There's a comparable ICE next to it at $55,000. The dealer looks at it and goes, yeah, well, you can have the EV, but it's going to cost you an extra 18. Yeah, there's some incentives, but it still doesn't wash. You're still going to pay more. And it's just a tough sell. Now, on top of it, they're going to say, yeah, and you got to pay $1,060 on top of that for this new EV road tax. It's really going to hurt. And plug-in hybrids are exempt from this. So, you can get a plug-in hybrid with like a long-range plug-in hybrid where you're almost buying no gas and not have to pay this. So now plug-in hybrids, the manufacturers talk about making more of them. I fear that they're going to be the buy in New Jersey to get a plug-in hybrid and not an EV, because it's really going to hurt. I mean, I have 3 EVs here. Now, granted, I'm not complaining because I can afford the road tax. I don't want to pay it, but I can afford it. But it's going to be costing me, $700, $800 a year. And now that my wife works at home and I'm driving a lot less, we would be paying 2 to 3 times what we would be paying in gasoline tax if we had comparable gasoline cars. So, I mean, the only way to do this fair, in my opinion, is a mileage and weight-based tax system. I think we should eliminate the gas tax completely and have a road tax based on how many miles you drive and what category your vehicle's in. If you're under 6,000 pounds, you pay X amount per mile. If you're over 6,000 pounds, you pay more. And, everybody pays the same. If you have a gas car, a hydrogen car, natural gas, doesn't matter. You pay X amount per mile, and everybody pays the same amount. I know it would be a bear to implement. Gathering, I guess you'd pay on an estimate based on last year. People have to report their mileage. People don't like that, but you do report your mileage eventually when you sell your vehicle. You have to sign the mileage on your your bill of sale. It's not like you're hiding that. But that's the only way to make this fair, in my opinion. The way that you're prepaying for the mileage on your EV, and the best part about it is it's such a scam for the state. You prepay the 4 years in advance, and most people lease. Not most, but a lot of people lease, and they're 3-year leases. So, you give your car back after the 3rd year, but you've paid the registration for 4 years. It's really a scam. It's unfortunate. There's some good organizations like Charge VC here in New Jersey that are fighting this. They're trying to get it knocked down. I'd love to see it get knocked down to like $100, maybe $150 a year. I think that's fair. And also, when you talked about the incentives in the state, New Jersey was a leader with offering no sales tax on electric vehicles since like 2004 or something like that. That we got hit with a 1-2 punch. Along with this being instituted, they said, "Oh yeah, and by the way, that's getting phased out." So for the next 3 years, there's different, like I think it's income based or the cost of the car based. That will be gone, which I knew it was going to be gone. I had always said we only need that through the 2020s. I thought that I had said, and I was wrong about this, 10 years ago, we would be at cost parity with EVs around 2024, 2025. That's what I was predicting back in 2015. I believed it. I really believed it. That I was wrong. We're not going to be at cost parity yet. We're not going to be at cost parity till the end of this decade, hopefully. The way it's looking now, prices haven't come down with volume of building batteries and so forth like I thought they would. So until we are at parity, the incentives really help getting people into EVs. So it's unfortunate, but with the once extremely friendly electric vehicle state is the tide's turning. I understand why we need to collect fees, and I know taxes are important and all this stuff, but I think it's just a little premature. I think if we could have gone, for a few more years, it just would have helped to incentivize, electric vehicles here. And the state is talking out of both sides of its mouth. This same governor that signed this into law is the one that declared like he wants to ban combustion vehicles in 2035, which, so now you're
Right.
saying we're going to ban them, but then you're pulling the carpet out from the BEV industry here to help dealers. You got to work with OEMs, with manufacturers and dealerships if that's your goal to get us to 100% electric. You can't say, okay, you've got to get to 100% electric by 2035, and we're going to make it as hard as hell as we can for you. We're going to make you EV owners pay more in road fees than gas cars. So I know you asked for a short explanation, but that's about as short as I can do it.
We have the same over here with the decline in combustion, and we have an annual, after 3 years we have an annual MOT. So all cars have an annual inspection where your mileage is taken, and that information is on the government database. So we are used to giving our mileage over once a year at least, and recorded for all cars 3 years or more until they become classic cars. And in the last however many cars that I've had, the app has always had a version of mileage, whether it's the Kona had the sort of that trip thing in the app, which always told you the peak speed that you did as well. So I was like, don't tell my wife that feature exists. And but the Polestar that I've got now, that has a thing on, you open the app and it says your mileage and your VIN on the, so you can tell your mileage day in, day out. I don't care if the government know my mileage. I don't want GPS tracking, which a lot of insurance companies here do now. Little black box in your boot to get a cheaper insurance because they want to know exactly, the G-forces at which you're accelerating or slowing down. Are you a good driver? Same as the whole FSD beta thing that would not give certain people access, before everybody got that software. And so I don't mind the government knowing how many miles I do per year, and if I own the vehicle for less than a year, or at least the point at which I buy and sell a vehicle, the mileage that I've done. I know that roads have to be paid for, but even fast charging. So we pay 5% VAT, value-added tax. We pay that on our home electricity, which is a reduced rate because the value-added tax in this country is 20%, but we pay 20% VAT on public charging, which doesn't seem fair. Same as what you said, Tom. The government talk about, well, we're going to, we've got these green policies and things like that. Great. Can we pay the same tax that we pay at home on electricity as when we go and charge EV chargers? No, EV charges 20% tax. And there's no logical reason apart from they're just collecting more revenue for the Treasury. That's it. Like the Exchequer just wants more money. There's no other reason. I mean, there's not some sort of, hey, you didn't think about this. It's just a tax. And so that is a blatantly anti-EV policy, which with the stroke of a pen could go tomorrow. So we have the same thing over here, Tom.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Tom and Martin. Kyle, hey, are you still with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, he is. So I want to talk about your video showing the way the different drivetrains work off-road. But first, I should mention that the second part of the Ocean to Ocean EV truck race went live last weekend, and people should check it out. Is the finale going up to...
And you should buy the merch as well, by the way, because I know that Carl won't say that because he's too modest. And he's like, don't buy it. Like he says, don't watch the videos. But you should, because it's really well designed and cool.
Hey, so is the finale going up
Thank you,
tomorrow?
Martin. Yeah, tomorrow's the big ending video. It should be pretty long. We're going to I haven't seen it yet. We're going to preview it this evening, make any changes late tonight so it can go up tomorrow.
Right. And Martin mentioned merch.
Hey there, Jordan here from Team Lightning F-150 representing. Want to let y'all know about this new shirt we have here to commemorate this special race. Now, Max, you're going to have to use some of your digital trickery to put something on the shirt to look like the one you'll actually receive when you place the order. Now, you can actually go right below this video or the other parts of the series. They'll have the shirt right below the video to order, unless you're one of those cheap that use ad blocker, in which case we found out it hides the store. But in that case, you can actually go to shop.outofspecstudios.com to find your shirt. Now, back to the race in Texas.
All right. Sorry, I that came up on our chat last night, and
Yeah, I didn't
it was
think
so
we were
great.
sharing that till tomorrow. So there we go,
Oh.
the sneak preview.
Oops. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
But
Not
I
the end of the
thought it
world.
was we did share the you did share the actual merch though on Twitter, I believe, yesterday though, right? And we're showing it here on the screen.
Yeah, so the
And,
merch is there. I mean, like Martin said, I don't know if the shirt's going to be any good. We're trying it out. People asked for it. We sold a bunch, a few
Yeah.
hundred of these things already just from a Twitter post. So thanks to everyone who purchased one. And yeah, we've never really done like official merch before, but if this works, maybe we'll do some more fun ones.
Right. Yeah, I thought it looked pretty cool. Looking forward to getting mine for sure. So yeah, so I guess the finale comes up tomorrow, and that should be great. So, right. So already, as I mentioned, Kyle, you put up a video this week on Out of Spec Reviews that takes a look at different EV powertrains, including dual motor setup, tri-motor setup, and quad motor setup. So I thought this was great, and I definitely learned something watching it. And if you've ever wondered, if you people out there have ever wondered what the difference between an open differential, a limited slip differential, locking differential, virtual locking differential, then this is a video for you. It does a great job demonstrating that, and it's not even that long. It's not like an hour or 2 hours. It's like, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something. So for the kind of off-roading you do, Kyle, which of these worked best, do you think, and why is it the tri-motor Hummer EV?
Right. Well, that does seem to be the best drivetrain option because it has a physical locking diff and an open, sort of rear with individual motors on the back axle.
For now.
Yeah. So, I mean, the video's there. It's kind of too long to explain now on the podcast, but we tried to do it as quickly as possible, showing the benefits of mechanical lockers versus virtual lockers with independent motors, how sometimes they can run into stall torque issues where if you only have one wheel with traction, as an example, sometimes you can't get it up and over an obstacle with only the power of one motor. And, sometimes motors don't make all their power from zero, like a lot of people think electric motors do. A lot of times they need to actually be spinning, 10, 20, 100, 3,000 RPM to make a full power. It's really hard to get an electric motor to go from 0 to 1. And having a quad motor system or a tri-motor system actually could hurt you in that area, but then could also unlock crazy benefits in terms of torque vectoring and other cool functionality that comes with adding multiple motors to a driveline that you couldn't do with combustion before. So yeah, I think it was an interesting one. We put it together last minute. I don't think it performed that well, but we knew it wouldn't. It was more just an educational thing for future testing that will come, in the coming months.
Right. You don't think it should perform well over time at least, because this is a great explainer, for just did a really great job. Martin, can you hit play on that video a little bit?
Sure thing.
Just so people can have a look and see kind of get a feel of what's going on. Basically, you drive up each truck on this little hill. So one of the front wheels and one of the back wheels doesn't have a whole lot of traction, right? There's a split moo, as you say. Right. There's just kind of explaining it, but
I don't think you're seeing that part now, but yeah, if Martin scrubs through, he'll be able to see it. But it's not. I mean, look, I don't know if our audience on this show really cares. Our audience certainly did not, unfortunately, because this is the stuff that Dominic, you and I are fascinated with, and driveline control has always been really important to me. It's been important to a lot of people, but it's just not like a mass market appeal thing. But that's the point with Out of Spec is we just make the videos we want to make, and this is one I've been wanting to make for a really long time. And I was lucky to have the opportunity to bring all these vehicles together.
Yeah, it was great. And then you did a little bit of drifting around the end too, right?
Yeah, just a little minor. We did a lot more
Right.
off camera, but yeah.
Right. And this was at an off-road park. You weren't like tearing up the wilderness or anything, right?
Correct. This is at an off-road park meant for this.
Right. All right. So let's see. So you also put a video this week from the Chevrolet display at the Denver Auto Show, where you checked out a Silverado EV, a Blazer EV, and an Equinox EV. So we'll talk about the Silverado EV in a bit, but I mostly want to know what you thought about the Equinox EV and maybe a bit of the Blazer too, if there's like something that you want to talk about regarding that car. But yeah, so what do you think about seeing the Equinox up close and personal? It's like the last one vehicle in this video.
Yeah, I've seen the Equinox before, but I never really spent that much time with it.
Okay.
And the one that I have seen, I wasn't able to sit inside of it. And so here was one at the show that we basically played around with, and seems great. Seems really nice. I mean, I guess my biggest issue was with the price on the one that we looked at. That Chevy says starting at $35,000, but we had a mildly equipped one, which means
Right.
it had a lot of nice stuff, but it wasn't even all-wheel drive, and it was more expensive than a Model Y long range. And
Right.
that's tough. That's a tough sell right there. But the car itself looked nice. I mean, we didn't drive it. That wasn't powered on. It was just a physical shape. I think it looked great, completely blacked out. I mean, a really good styling. Seems like the right size. If it truly was 35,000 with nice equipment, then that would be pretty compelling for sure. I'm curious to see what you get for 35 grand, and I'm sure it's listed somewhere. We don't know. I don't know. We didn't really look into it too much, but we will when we review it fully, of course. And yeah, nice car, but just seems like that you can go a little bit high on the options.
David Dwyer is sharing that he's seen a lot of them on the road there around the Detroit area, where I guess he's around the Detroit area where there's a lot of testing going on. But I haven't really seen this car in so long. There was like a lot of excitement around it when it was first announced. Like, I don't know how long ago was that? 3 years ago? It seems like forever. I don't. Anyone remember?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But,
so
that was cool. I mean, I really think that could be a market leader, perhaps, if they are 35 grand. But then, Max brought up a good point in the video, which is, do you do Volvo EX30 or this? And this is probably going to have a much larger battery pack and more range than EX30. So that's going to be very compelling.
And more backroom space, back seat space, back room. Yeah. Yeah. It's been so long.
And this is what I'm talking about with cost parity, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah.
The gas Equinox starts at like 26, I think 25.9, something like that.
Right.
And the top trim, the highest trim, starts at 31.
Wow.
So that's the problem. You walk into a dealer and Kyle shows this one here that's not completely loaded. And how much was it, Kyle? You're pointing at it now in the video.
I think it's 48.
Yeah, it's 40, 47, 48 grand.
You can't equip a combustion Equinox to get to $48,000.
Right.
You could get every option that they possibly sell. And, that's the problem we have at dealerships when the dealer, the salespeople can't talk about incentives and then also cost of ownership together. And that's really the biggest impediment, right, that we have today. That and infrastructure, but the cost is the biggest problem at the dealership. The dealers cannot communicate the value of EVs, and it's a shame.
Right. Yeah, that's when we're talking about the things before about cost parity. Someone was mentioning that we talk about similar vehicles, but then the electric Equinox, I feel like it is inherently just like so much better vehicle than the gas one. So of course it's going to be more. It's got better acceleration, it's quieter. Just a better driving experience. It's just like the feeling differences may not be, to everybody's cup of tea or different than what people are used to. So that's a hurdle to get over. But just like experience-wise of just driving the thing and maybe ownership, I just feel like it's, it's not a parity kind of situation there. So of course it's going to cost more, but that's I don't know if we can get the public's mind wrapped around that, especially when we call one the Equinox and then the other one Equinox EV, and they're going to compare that regardless of experience, right?
Yeah, and they should, in my opinion. I mean, they should. It's a dead set comparison. I
Right.
know the driving experience to you is better. Maybe some other people prefer to hear the gas engine and get that audible feedback. I think it's a much better driving experience, but these two vehicles are going to be sitting next to each other on dealer showrooms, Dom.
Right.
One's going to say 48,000, the other one's going to say 32,000.
Right.
How do you get beyond? How do you get past that?
Right.
True.
True.
If the dealer can't immediately say, ho ho ho, I know there's a big difference here, but let's sit down really quickly. You've got the federal, you've got some state incentives. Fueling over 3 years, you're going to save about $800 a year. Blah blah blah. Look at this now. 3 years down the road, you guys these vehicles have cost you the same amount of money. Now you can begin to talk about it. But the dealers are. I don't want to call them lazy, the salespeople, but they are. We all are lazy. Not all salespeople, but they just want the point of least resistance. That look at that. It costs $15,000 less. That's better for your family. And that's one of the biggest problems we have. I think with the problem with the cost parity at this point. We're still a ways from these two vehicles sitting next to each other on the showroom, with being, within a few $100s of each other cost-wise.
Yeah,
Right.
the with the exception of premium brands and Rolls-Royce, and you can sit down and go for a nice cup of tea and a bun with your designer and say, what pattern do you want your crystals in the roof lining? The rest of the car industry, whether it's new cars or used cars, is a volume game. And every salesperson's trick is to turn over as many cars as possible without making you feel like you are the least important person in the world. You want to feel special. You want to have that great experience buying a car, but ultimately you are a ticking clock to any used car salesperson. And all car sales, so with the exception of a few, it's a volume game. Whether you're selling £2,000 third-hand cars, and you're in that sort of first car market, young driver kind of thing, or whether you're selling £100,000 vehicles on as a used car dealer, the whole business is about scale. The more cars you sell, the more money you make. And so, if it takes any more time to sell an EV than a combustion car, you're going to sell the combustion car. You are not, unless you are a salesperson who is in some way invested in selling EVs. And we've talked on this podcast before about incentivizing, or maybe having a different reward structure, different bonus structure to sell EVs. Can the OEMs even get involved with that and, pay more per in your paycheck for EVs? So I don't know if they can or not with dealer laws and stuff like that. But until a point at which it's easier. Now, we've had a collapse of EV sales, of prices over here. Used car price EVs in the last 18 months. And there is genuinely situations where it's so much cheaper
Whoa. We have an earthquake over
Something
there?
crazy is happening here. I think there's an earthquake.
All right.
Yeah. Whoa, that's wild.
Okay, well, Tom's okay.
Yeah, it looks like the initial bang is over. It looks like. Wow. So, earthquake in New Jersey. You have it breaking news. Wow, that's scary.
I'm going to take Tom off screen just out of respect of
Sure.
of having to deal with what he's dealing to do that. But Tom's okay.
Right.
We'll carry on with the show, and obviously I will message Tom and he's more importantly going to check out his family and his house and stuff like that. So finish with my point of saying it's a volume game. So there are genuinely some cases where it's cheaper to sell an EV at the minute because there's some great EV bargains, and I've seen great advertisements for EVs secondhand with people saying, "Hey, this is a great car, you should come and buy it." And so, wow, that was scary to see what happened to Tom. So it's totally thrown me.
Yeah,
I'm all
what the
rattled
heck
myself.
just happened? I lost service, and then I see Tom screaming about an earthquake, and is everyone okay? What happened?
I think so.
It was just talking, and all of a sudden it's like you can see Tom's camera shaking and he's looking around, and it's like you could hear stuff shaking in his garage.
Are we sure it's an earthquake and not a bomb, or what the heck?
he said he
crazy.
thinks it's an earthquake. Yeah.
What's Nebula saying?
Wow.
Nebula saying 1.7
Magnitude 1.7, 1 kilometer west southwest of Lake Telemark.
Yeah. So he looks like he's okay. Maybe ready to rejoin us here. maybe he can give us
Tom, I'll put you back in.
report.
You're
okay?
right, Tom.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I've never witnessed anything like that here, like in New Jersey. The whole house was shaking. Stuff was falling off the walls. I went outside and walked around, and all I hear is car alarms are going off, dogs are barking. So I guess we had an earthquake here.
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, like, this is, New Jersey. It's not California where like that happens frequently, but it was nuts. You should have seen on the wall, even the chargers on my wall here were all shaking. I thought they were going to fall down. I wanted to get out of the house. I thought the house was going to collapse.
That had to be like a 5. I mean, Nebia's got 1.7 here up on the screen, but
Joseph says I'm an hour away from Tom in New Jersey. My house was shaking.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that was wild.
Is your partner working at home today, Tom, or is she in?
No, she's in New York. She's
in the city today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was unnerving. Let me tell you, because the house was. I can't believe no windows broke or anything, because the whole house was just totally shaking.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, sorry about the interruption.
No,
that was nuts.
I think we have a few. Oh, Jim and Bill just felt it there in Killington.
It wasn't a little. Trust me, guys. Like this, we were rocking. Like I thought the house was going to fall down.
That had to be like a 5 in my mind. I don't know, but
that's nuts.
All right. So I guess let's move on. Right. Let's talk about some news. So this week, the Chevrolet Silverado EV RST First Edition, which is the top spec, got a new official price and range figure. So GM is chopping a full $10,000 from the price, and it now starts at $500 before destination charge. And its range is officially increased from 400 miles to 440 miles. So I know Kyle really wants to get one of these, but Tom, you're a truck guy. Does this tempt you in any way, or are you plenty happy with the Ford F-150 Lightning in your driveway?
So, I always say use the right tool for the job. For me, the Lightning's perfect. I don't need 400 miles of range. I've everything that I needed to do, including driving to Florida, is a piece of cake. And, I use it for work, but not heavy towing work. And for me, would I take the extra 100 and something miles of range if you're going to give it to me? Yeah. But do I need it? No. Am I going to go sell the Lightning and trade it in for that? No. I expected it to be, I fully expect the Silverado to be better than the Lightning in a number of ways. I haven't spent enough time on one to find out. Kyle has. But even I'm sure he even wants to spend more time in it. Because, don't forget, it's coming out 2 years after the Lightning, and vehicles that come out 2 years after a certain vehicle should be better in a lot of ways. They had more time to refine things, more time to improve upon things. But the range overall for me is a non-issue. I don't need the extra size. I'd rather not have a 200 kilowatt hour battery driving it around all the time. I'd rather not pay for that when I don't need it. So for me, I'm happy, with where I am with the Lightning.
Right. Hey, Kyle, would you trade Cybertruck in on this? I know you want one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Folding mid-gate, Super Cruise, four-wheel steer, air suspension, and of course that big battery. Those are really the improvements of the RST over the WT, the work truck version that I spent the last, 8,000-9,000 miles with over the last month and a half or so. And, we know the Silverado EV really well now. We just made a video with the RST yesterday, and the thing rocks. It's the truck that every truck needed to be, in my opinion, and it is the benchmark in the category now. You can actually use it for towing. You can actually use it for long distances, which, as someone who is in the middle of Nebraska or about to be right now, you need a lot of range out here, especially when towing. And I've towed out here with my Rivian, and it's a pain in the butt. And when you start slapping twice the battery capacity into a vehicle and huge charging speeds, then it starts to become pretty dang usable. And the price isn't bad. I mean, Cybertruck's $100,000 right now. Doesn't even ship with autopilot. Now it will hopefully at some point have it, but this is $94,000. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with that price and bringing the price down. Now it's like so much cheaper than like a Cybertruck, like Foundation series at least, because that's like 120, right? So that's
No, they're
yeah.
100.
Oh, 100. What do I have 120 in my
Yeah.
mind?
120 is the beast.
Oh, right. So, but I guess so. This can't really compare with the Beast and the RST.
Well, it's significantly down on power and acceleration and performance, and yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would compare a Cybertruck dual motor to this, and you're pretty apples to apples on price. And it's, do you want, honestly, better software with Tesla, potentially software updates that'll be better, and potentially future promise of more features, or do you go Silverado, which is just big ass battery, kind of comes completed the day you take delivery, and you're good to rock and roll.
Wow. Oh, we're looking at the earthquake stuff. Preliminary 5.5.
5.5, 20 miles north of west of North Plainfield, New Jersey. I mean, I don't want to give. Tom's coming back. Don't want to give too much about where Tom lives, but that's not a million miles away from Tom.
I was just getting a phone call. Yeah, I mean, see that star? That's where I am right now.
That's pretty much. Yeah. I don't want to dox you online, online, but that's close to where you live.
A friend called me and sent me a link and said that it was in Tewksbury.
Okay.
And to give it was a 4.8 magnitude in Tewksbury is what he sent. This says 5.5, so we're right around a 5 magnitude.
Wow.
And if it is in Tewksbury, where that star is, we're talking 10 miles from my house.
Wow.
So I mean, I'm right here.
Epicenter.
Yeah. And all my friends are messaging me now that like their houses are like things broke in their houses and fell off the wall and everything. So I actually should walk around my house and just take a look and see if you guys don't mind. Let me punch out for a second.
Yeah, you're good.
Because that's how, I mean, I don't know if it relayed on live, but that's how strong it was. This house was shaking. Like I thought it was, I was stunned for a second. I thought that roof was coming in. All right, let me go check.
Okay.
Take care.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah. So Silverado EV RST. So Kyle, when do you have a video coming out on this?
I went up yesterday at the auto show.
Oh, okay, the auto show one, right. So did you didn't really get to play with the midgate though, right?
I have in the past. I've done the midgate on RST before, and it's a process. But we're not in this video because they had 12-volt power off to the vehicle. But yes, I've done it before in an RST, and I think we're gonna drive them soon. We'll have one on test soon. But I mean, it's pretty much the same thing as the work truck we had, just with nicer features. And so we already know it's gonna kick ass. And so it's awesome.
Right. We just had this one comment here from Goldfish. It's called GM's engineers with the 4WT. Can the rear glass be removed and the metal below the window be removed to make a permanent midgate, not compromise structural integrity? That is what they're doing with the RST, with the consumer version, not so much the work trucks, basically.
Yeah, but he's asking like, can you just cut a hole in it? And I would say you can cut a hole in anything.
You want to
compromise structural integrity, maybe, but probably not, because the base structure of the vehicle is designed to handle the midgate. I'm not sure if they put any structural reinforcements in when you spec the midgate. Would be interesting to know. But we know the base chassis can handle it with whatever reinforcements they use.
Right. Yeah, I think that's probably the case. So that is what we're doing here. Okay. So I don't know. Anything else you want to mention about the Silverado?
I would say this continues to be the car that more people should be, the truck that more people should be talking about, because everything I see, obviously starting with out of specs testing and then out from that, I'm really, really impressed with that. And we don't have truck culture here, but from Ford, who are making negative noises around EV. Obviously, there's Cybertruck, which is not without its problems. We see people getting, 1-2 miles away from the service center and then breaking down and what. Not all of them, obviously. Negativity around the truck, Cybertruck, needing some more software to be fully baked. But hey, sea, Fisker, Ocean, Tesla aren't alone in that. Whereas this seems to me, at least, to continue to surprise and delight. And I'm not the only person to be saying this, but this seems to be a truck that is genuinely worthy of talking about. And I think it's going under the radar a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have the crazy. Well, it'll be interesting once we start seeing them on the road, really. I think that's going to make the difference, right? When people can talk about its capability and be able to see it actually in showrooms and check it out in person. I think I like the GMC version of this better. And I'm sure the GMC is still rated at 400 miles right now, but I suspect that's also going to go up. I think it's basically the same truck underneath, right? With just a bit of styling differences.
Okay.
Maybe the GMC is slightly more posh, slightly. I don't know, but anyway, where's that? So I guess move on. So Ford raised eyebrows and concerns a couple days ago when it announced an update to its EV and hybrid vehicle plans. So the headline news is that it's delaying the 3-row SUV by 2 years to 2027, and the next gen truck is coming out in 2026. So it also says that all of its ICE vehicles will have hybrid options by 2030. So I know it's hard for some of us to get excited about hybrids, and no doubt some of us think that all ICE vehicles should be hybrids by now anyway, but at least this will at least reduce gas consumption, and we should all celebrate that at the very least. But so although like T3, which is the code name for the next gen electric truck, is in a lot of headlines, it isn't clear that it's being delayed, at least not officially. So in the press release, Ford explicitly says it's retiming the 3-row SUV that's going to be built up in Oakville, Ontario, in Canada. But with regards to T3, everything appears to be going as planned. Like work on building the Blue Oval City factory seems to be going well, with all kinds of equipment being installed right now. Originally, though, the T3 was going to be revealed in 2025 and begin production in 2025. Tom wrote about the factory when work was getting underway, and in that piece, he said it was due to hit the market in 2025. So, maybe there is actually some delay. I'm not sure if they're. I don't know. We can get your all take on that in a moment, but see. Oh, we should remind ourselves also that the electric versions of the Ford Bronco and Maverick have been placed on hold, at least according until the 2030s, according to a report from Auto Week. But maybe to balance some of this all out, we also recently learned that Ford has a Skunkworks team, Skunkworks, developing several more affordable EVs, including a compact SUV and a compact truck. So it's all a bit of a convoluted picture, really. So, Martin, what do you make of all this?
We've had interesting chats on our internal group WhatsApp about Ford, and I think that it is fantastically difficult for the established businesses who are making money from combustion, with all of the overheads and costs they have, to move to EV. That's not to say that the startups have an easier job. They just have a different set of challenges. And this is not surprising from Ford, but probably has three consequences that I can think of. The first one is consumer confidence, because it's a confidence game. And you need to know that the car that you're buying, the truck that you're buying is important to the car company. This is the second largest purchase we all make in our life behind our homes, typically. And you could discount the Fisker Ocean as much as you like. I wouldn't buy one yet, to learn the company's on secure grounds. Probably not. And you could say the same about Rivians and Lucids. Now, I think they're very well funded, and I think they'll be fine. But it's still the second biggest purchase we all make, and it's in the tens of thousands of dollars. So you want the car company that you buy to be fully behind your EVs. So I think, and also it sends probably a less good message to those Mach-E owners and Ford F-150 Lightning owners that are out there already, that are fans of the Ford brand, that they're backing away from EVs till the end of the decade. Also very difficult to then manage supply chains, because we've seen this with established companies that have to go and secure. They don't make their own cells. And some of them are increasingly. We've seen the project with Ford and Michigan and CATL, of licensing that Chinese technology, but it's American boots on the ground, not Chinese boots on American soil, but it's CATL, it's Ford's investment. So we see that, but that supply chain, the battery is the most important, but it's the tip of the iceberg, and it goes. Right. And it goes very far down. And so if you're making F-150 Lightnings, well, your supply chain of F-150s is well established. But there's plenty of bits that you need supply chains for. And so suppliers work with these OEMs on very long-term deals. And it's not the work of a moment to say, hey, we want to go EV tomorrow, but also we're not going to go EV for the next 4 years. It's not what Ford said, but we're going to back away from that. Then the third thing is talent, and it's a brain drain. And there are people that are Ford lifers, so to speak, or people who are, I see as being with Ford for the long term, who are very, very highly rated in the EV world. We've had them on this podcast as guests before. They're very senior people in Ford, and I think that they would probably stick around. And then also we see people at Ford who have come into the company, the likes of Doug Fields, who's leading their EV charge there, who have had a bit of a more circuitous route to get to Ford via the likes of the Teslas and Apples. And you think, well, if that person, and this, I'm using him as an example, not him specifically, but if these people are in their career in it to work on pure battery electric vehicles and work at the most interesting place they can be. They've got no shortage of job offers, right? Of where can I work in the world that makes me jump out of bed in the morning? If it's, well, we're sort of pressing pause a little bit here at Ford and then somebody else comes knocking on the door. And this isn't, that person is not specifically I'm saying, but there is a potential brain drain within the company of skills that are not easy to replace. So I think there are more examples, but those are the most important examples I can see that certainly they will have thought of a long time ago, and there are many examples I probably haven't thought of because I'm not Jim Farley. But it will be giving them sleepless nights as they try to navigate this difficult move, both from a PR perspective, from a marketing perspective, and from a very real life supply chain business perspective of. We need to carry on making money from combustion, from hybrids. I think that they'll be fine. We saw the same from GM recently as well, saying, "Oh, we're going to do some more plug-in hybrid stuff." Sure. But then no specifics of, yeah, but which models? Is it the ones you're selling in China? You're going to use that tech? Is it Ultium? Then no, it's not the Ultium batteries. Okay, so then what is it? By the time you put that program in place, if you do an accelerated program that is say 4 to 5 years. Chinese EVs are coming to the market in 3 years, and that is ridiculous. Maybe even, late 2s to 3s. So a typical 4 to 5 year program, then you're into the 2030s, and the EV is going to be a no-brainer by then.
Right.
So it's very difficult to work with specific markets because Europe and China are going hell for leather on EVs.
Right.
China is, heading towards 50%. Europe is in the 20s, depending, country to country, but 20, 25, heading towards 30% if you include plug-in hybrids as well, vehicles with plug sockets on the side. And the United States, despite everything your current administration has done to be pro-EV, and if the next administration, if it's a Trump administration, which we know be very anti-EV, this is what's happening with a very pro-EV administration.
Right.
If the best you can do is 10%, and your big car companies are going, well, we're not sure. It starts to make the United States a bit of an outlier there, and then you get this weird two-tier system of like the rest of the world has gone EV, but America is kind of lagging behind. But you're a big car market, so when you're ready, it's like when California makes some rules. The car companies are like, well, we'll just make cars that match all the California rules. There's no point having a car for California, a car for the rest of the world, because it's such a big car market.
Right.
So when America's ready, we're ready to rock and roll because you'll light the fire. It's a really interesting time to watch at the moment. My thoughts.
Right. So we have one reviewer here, Jace Craftmiller, who I believe may be an employee for it. I'm not positive off the top of my head, but I do see him on Threads sometimes, and he has some great takes. If you want to follow him on Threads, I know he's there. So he's just saying about Ford, they aren't backing away. It's just a delay. In fact, the Skunkworks team proves that they aren't backing off, in his opinion. And then it reminds us later on that it's 2026 is just less than 2 years away. But I think a lot of it is perception, right? We get big headlines. Ford's pushing back these and then a lot of the articles don't mention like the whole skunkworks thing. I believe to Inside EV's credit, I think in their article they did. And the place, oh yes, and also Car and Driver did as well. But yeah, perception is everything, and but also 2 years waiting for a 3-row SUV from Ford, delay. I mean, that just opens the door for competition. Like, so Kia already has like this, the Kia EV9. It's a 3-row SUV. It's big. I think it looks great. There's getting a lot of great reviews. People really seem to like it. The sales numbers aren't like crazy yet. I mean, I think it's like 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 a month or something like that. We just got last week was the sales reporting week, so we have a lot of that out there. I don't know, Tom, do you have any thoughts about this? How do you feel about this pushback from Ford? Because you've spoken with with the CEO in person and.
Yeah, it's disappointing. It's not entirely surprising. And as far as like the news reporting, Dom, if it bleeds, it leads. It's they're going to talk more about cutbacks and changing policy. Then, and by the way, they're also doing some stuff in the background, to develop this smaller platform, more affordable vehicles. And I think Ford, all of these major legacy brands are tied to profit and loss, their quarterly reports. And the fact that the Lightning and the Mach-E hasn't sold as well as Ford had hoped it would. I think they're selling okay. The Lightning, in my opinion, should be doing better, but it's not. I mean, you can't hide behind that. It has a lot of the anti-EV rhetoric that came out from videos and so forth hurt that. If people gone online and seen video after video of people saying, "Oh, this thing's terrible. It can't tow. It can't tow." Has that hurt sales? Probably, but you can't whine about that. I think the companies the bean counters in the companies are saying, "Look, we've got to pull back. The market's not ready for these cars. They cost too much. We need to reevaluate this. We're not abandoning it, but we need to slow down a little bit." It kind of reminds me of what BMW did around 2013, 2014. Mm-hmm. If you remember, they were all in, and all of a sudden, new board of directors came in, new CEO came in, and we're gonna do hybrids for a while. We're gonna do the plug-in hybrids and this the platform that can adapt from ICE to BEV to PHEV. They did this, back 10 years ago. So I think we're seeing a little bit of that now. Is it going to hurt the company? It may end up, we all talked about not all the legacy brands are going to survive this shift to electrification 10, 15 years from now. I think Ford better toe this walk this line very carefully, because it seemed like they were one of the companies that got it and were really going all in and even with not direct sales, but set online pricing. We saw the pushback that the dealers gave. The Ford's getting sued from every angle, from every dealer lobbying group and so forth about that. And they might have just said, okay, maybe we went too hard, too fast. Let's back off a little bit. Let's let the market come to us. Is it going to be a good plan? It might financially be the right move for Ford. It's not what we all want to hear, but It might end up being the right thing. There's a whole lot of people out there that aren't ready for electric cars yet. And even though I think they're better in, say, 3/4 of the aspects, they're better. There's a lot of people that aren't ready for it yet. And maybe it is the right strategy. I think time's going to tell. I think there's going to be casualties in this switch. By 2040, 15 years from now, I think there's some of the legacy brands that we have known for years and would be impossible for us to imagine them not being around. I think there's going to be, some of them aren't going to be here, and it's going to be based on the decisions they make today.
A good point about, maybe our perspective might be, maybe this could be the right move. We're not, auto executives, obviously, but we do watch the industry. We have an idea, but still, from our perspective, this may seem, hard news to hear, but maybe it's the right move. And it, time will tell, I have to say.
We live in a little bit of a bubble us, with
Yeah.
electric vehicle enthusiasts and people that have been doing it for a while, and we've been driving EVs for so long. We're like me personally, I can't understand why 90% of the people wouldn't say at this point, oh, this is just a better way for me. Now I know it doesn't work for everyone, but if you can afford an EV, that's one thing that, that's going to be an impediment for a lot of people. But like my friends who I know can afford EVs, it's like, I'm like, I don't try to convince anyone to buy an EV.
Right.
If they ask me questions, I answer it, but I don't say you should be driving one, get this. To me, it's kind of like, I don't understand why they wouldn't want one, but that's my perspective. I'm not coming from their perspective. And I know change is hard. We're creatures of habit. Nobody likes gas, but it's what we understand and what we've been doing forever. And it's hard to make that leap.
Right. Hey, so I want to move on and talk about some delivery numbers here, but we have a lot of people online watching this. I think, Tom, because of the earthquake. So just a little quick update. You're fine. Your house is fine.
Yeah. So about 25% of the pictures on our wall are on the floor. None of them broke though, which I'm shocked. The one little figurine that we had fell and broke, but everything else seems to be okay.
Okay.
And so thanks for asking, everyone. But yeah, that rocked us pretty good here. My phone is just blowing up from all my friends and neighbors that live around here are like, telling me, well, like what happened to their house and how their dogs freaked out a few seconds before it happened and everything, So yeah, we got hit. It looks like it's right around 5. Some reports are saying 5.5 magnitude, and I am super close to the epicenter. I mean, right. I am,
yeah, it was
5-minute drive from the epicenter.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that again because that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I wanna see it later. Yeah, someone said check for gas leaks. I don't smell any gas leaks yet. No, I haven't checked with Meredith, but I would imagine she's far enough away where it shouldn't have been too bad. But he said I heard they got shaken. She hasn't messaged me, so I'm assuming that everything's okay. I should shoot her a message. You're right, bad husband.
Yeah.
So, but I figured. Oh, here's Meredith. She did 6 minutes.
She's watching the show, right?
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, we felt the earthquake at the office. I see it was in Tewksbury. Are you okay?
Hey, Tom. I've added the 20 seconds clip of your camera to our little wall here. Do you mind if I play it? Because
no, go ahead. Because I'm curious how I reacted. Because I was scared for that second. I thought the house was coming down.
I can't pull the sound in, but I've got this, so we can carry on kind of talking underneath it, I guess. And you just see the camera start to shake.
Right. Yeah.
But look, the camera carries on shaking after you walk off.
Oh, yeah.
Like I don't like whether it was just whether you could feel that afterwards as well.
Yeah. Oh, I could. Yeah. It seemed like it was going on longer than the camera was shaking. I mean, I ran outside the house. I'm in the garage, actually. As you guys know, I ran outside because, like, I thought there was a possibility the house was going to come down. But I mean, I initially thought it was an earthquake. But then I'm wondering, is it like, like did a plane land on my roof?
Right.
Like did a plane crash into the house? Like it was just, you're not expecting that,
Right.
So, but all seems to be good here.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Let's move to some Tesla news really quick before I end. Let's see. In Q4 of 2023, Tesla produced 494,989 vehicles and delivered 484,507. So that was Q4 of 2023 last year. The delta between what was produced and what it delivered was 10,482 vehicles. Okay. And then in Q1 of 2024, this quarter that's just passed, it produced 61,618 fewer vehicles. That's 433,371 units, and sold just, I have the wrong number here. It sold fewer of those, and it sold 46,561 fewer than it made. So like that's about 4 times the unsold delta from the fourth quarter. So Tom, we're calling on you a lot today.
I'm texting with Meredith right now. Sorry, I don't even hear what you're saying, Dom. Ask someone else.
No problem. Martin. So Tesla CEO Elon Musk used to say always that demand is not a problem, and if it becomes a problem, the company has a lot of levers it can pull to boost sales activity. So this is kind of a big deal because, regardless of sales falling, even with sales down like significantly, which I think it's like, I'm not sure if you know the percentage off that they're down right now off the top of your head.
Oh, what, stock price or the?
Just the deliveries from.
Oh, I want to say 17%, but a Tesla fan will correct me in the comments.
Right. Okay. So, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no getting around this. This was a disaster of a result for Tesla, given that the consensus only a few weeks ago was up in the high. It's 100,000 vehicles more. You're heading towards 500,000 vehicles, 470s, 480s. I can't remember the fact set numbers. And then last weekend, Tesla put out, as they do, their own survey of the different analysts, which put it at, I don't know, I forget, like 430 something. And so to come in so far under took the breath out of everyone, really. But look, I've seen Tesla's stock price fall more when they've done well. And then had some weird bit of news, or Elon told an analyst, you're asking bonehead questions. Like I've seen weirder things happen with the stock than a disaster of a result. But we knew it was coming because we could see the prices that are being slashed. We can see the 5-year 0% finance options they're doing in China, that's a very hard cost to a company in the current interest rate environment. And we can see 2.5 million capacity and under 400,000 deliveries, and there's no telling what will happen this year. But if you were to extrapolate that, dangerous game, and say 1.6 million a year when this should be a 2.5 million a year, then Mexico's never going to happen. Stop talking about Indian gigafactories. That's ridiculous. And as we saw during the pandemic, very big car companies, the likes of Nissan and more, had real, you've got a lot of capital tied up in, car making's a horrible business. And the minute you've got overcapacity, it gets really gnarly very quickly. So we saw this from Tesla. They were coming out and saying, well, deliveries were down because production was a problem, and we had the Houthi rebels attacking supply chains for Europe, and it was a fire at Giga Berlin. And it didn't make any, and everyone knew it didn't make any sense because they said, well, delivery's down because production was a problem. Hang on, it doesn't make any sense. You've got a massive excess of stock now. Right. And so, again, as you say, perception is everything, because as I've been banging this drum for weeks now, the best EV bargain at the minute in the United States is to buy a Model Y, an inventory Model Y. Mm-hmm. Some of them do have access to the tax credit and some of them don't. I think there's a new toggle. I'll have a look while I'm talking.
There is.
I think there's a new toggle on the Tesla website where you can literally just say, just only show me vehicles where the federal tax credit applies. So that'll rule out the 2023 model year Model Ys, which are down 7.5, 8 grand anyway. So Tesla have basically eaten that. You can get into a Model Y for like 30 something. Look at the homepage. And they're not desperate because it's just good. It's just good selling. Model Y at 37,490 after federal tax credit. Like they were never this.
Right. So they're pulling levers, right? They're advertising, they're offering incentives, or if you go to the inventory, there's some really great deals there. Yeah. But
it is the best. The Model Y is the best car to buy right now. The best new EV to buy in America right now. It's a stunning deal for what is a great car. But I do accept, and I will defend Tesla, and I do accept the criticism that if you don't know how good the vehicles are, and you're looking in from the outside, and you go, well, Model S looks old, Model X looks old, Model 3 they've sort of fannied around the edges, but they built it as the re-engineered Model 3. It's not, though, is it? The so-called Highland. And the Model Y is going to be the same this year. So if you don't know how good the cars are, and you're looking in from the outside, and maybe you're a critic, or you don't like Elon or whatever, it is easy to criticize. I think it's a very stale lineup that you can get it in 3 colors. If you know, these are very, very good vehicles, but you have to start to then have that valid conversation, which is, has everybody that's bought one? Because Hyundai are doing really well. Mustang Mach-E sales were, were
Right.
very good. Other car makers, the numbers are much smaller, of course, for the others, because in America the market is so Tesla. So it's
Right.
a real issue, I think, that that they need to get their head around. And I'm not sure the answer is have a new CEO. But then, of course, the other thing that people are laying in on top, those that are attacking the company, saying there's someone at the wheel who has ultimate control of the company. The board is packed with his friends and family, and he just wants to run Twitter. So why don't you go let him do that and get a Tim Cook in, or a CEO, or even a COO who is the figurehead, who has ultimate control, but he seems to be hanging on to that to say, I can do everything. I can launch rockets and have a car company and do a social media company, and he's only human. He's only got so many hours in the day. And so there's that issue as well, which is, should he take a step back? But that's a very difficult argument to make, because he has created all of the value in that company over the years. So at what point?
He's very much associated with the company. He is the kind of the brand, really.
If Steve Jobs hadn't been ill, how long would he have been at Apple? Well, probably still now. And so, impossible situation for founders and people who are so intrinsically linked. Anyway, that's yeah.
Right.
Someone says, so Boomer Bits is a good lesson for Tesla and Musk. Stay out of politics.
Right, but I read yesterday, he put out 50-some tweets in the last couple of days or something, and 2 of them were about Tesla.
Yeah, he used to all be about Tesla, and that was the exciting thing, is that there was no other CEO of a car company out there that would be in the conversation with the fans, the community, and replying to people, being like, "Good idea, we'll do that." And sometimes it didn't happen, but more often than not, to give them their credit, it might be a year or 2 later, they'd be like, "Hey, that thing called dog mode, we did it," and you're like, "Man, that has all gone now." He seems so disinterested, but that's a difficult conversation to have.
Right. Yeah. And he's
not going anywhere. Elon's going to run Tesla until he's forced out.
Right. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I'm not sure what it would take. Well,
He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to. That whole thing about it is overblown, I think, of he's dragging the company down. I don't buy into that fully. That is an element, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know, Tom, if you wanted to weigh in here at all, but
No, I was listening to what Martin was saying, and it's pretty much spot on. It's particularly at the end point. That with Elon, it's amazing how he went from being everyone's hero, pretty much. Even it didn't matter.
Mostly.
I don't think it mattered which political side you were on back in the beginning. I think people respected. I mean, he was more of let's say applauded by the left, but people on the right respected him and said, "This guy's just a brilliant guy," and he's once in a lifetime type of a figure. But now he's really with self-inflicted wound. We could see on our battery bargains how many people in our emails say don't recommend Teslas.
Right.
Nobody was saying that 2 years ago.
Right.
So,
no.
I think it's unfortunate. I think it's like I said, it's a self-inflicted wound, and people do spend their money sometimes with that aligns with their beliefs. And if people think that Elon's not a good, sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah.
If they don't want to support somebody that maybe says or does things that a particular person does or says, they have every right not to spend their money on it. They're still making probably the best electric cars on the market for the most part. But I don't see the reason. I don't know why I know if I was a CEO of a company, I wouldn't be as strong, telling everybody, what my beliefs are and making strong statements. I just think no matter what you do, you're going to piss 50% of the population off, no matter what you say. At least, you can only be half right, because everyone's so divided. So, but, he's one of the richest people in the world. So I guess when you have that much money, you do what you want to do.
Right. I'm just worried about, just it's slowing down, EV adoption, basically, because, other automakers are making EVs now, and their sales have all mostly been up. Ford EV sales almost doubled in Q1 to over 20,000. Audi U.S. electric sales improved 29% in the Q1. Nissan EV sales remained stable at over 5,000 in Q1. And Volkswagen ID4 sales decreased by 37% in Q1, but that's, I think, a lot to do with the new model coming in. So there's a lot of increased sales over there, but they don't have the volume that Tesla has. I mean, it's like not a drop in the bucket, but it's pretty apples and oranges, the amount of the scale differences here. I don't know, Kyle, we're going to go soon, but I just wonder if you wanted to weigh in on this at all.
Well, I've just been cutting in and out. So were you talking about how the perception around Tesla and Elon might be hampering adoption?
Yes.
Well, it's funny. As I was packing up the car this morning, my neighbor walks up, and he's always been mildly interested in the cars that we have in the driveway. But he's like, okay, I know you're the EV guy or the car guy, and I'm thinking about getting, he said, one of those SUVs was his terminology. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Want an electric SUV. That's awesome. Our whole neighborhood, pretty much everyone has an electric car in our neighborhood now. It's pretty common. And so they're one of the last combustion people. And, he's like, just nice guys, just like our old Subaru's dying, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, just go get a Model Y. And he's like, well, yeah, that kind of seems like a good choice. He's like, I don't know about Elon, though. I don't necessarily agree. And I'm like, well, I don't think about Tim Cook every time I make a phone call. And he's like, good point. I'm going to go get a Model Y. And so, is what it is. So, yeah, I basically just told him, like Martin said, you can't ignore the value of an inventory Model Y right now with the tax credit toggle on. And that's what I told him to do. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go do that because it's the easiest choice. So, yep.
And for those people who, have feel very strongly about Elon or Tesla, because there are like great options out there. They might have to pay a bit more, but Hyundai Ioniq 6, the Kia EV9, the 2024 ID4. There's the Chevrolet Silverado EV. There's so many cars to be excited about. BMW iX. Yeah, there's just all kinds of great product out there. Porsche Macan EV coming. Oh, I can't wait. That's when it's going to be good. But it's still, it's still important to have like this huge volume player who really developed this whole industry. Really, really got things moving. To be kind of like dropping the ball. It's such a difficult thing to talk about in a what do you call it, in a neutral way. I mean, we all have our feelings, and I'm trying to be neutral about this, but
I had this on my podcast only I think 2 weeks ago, and I said, look, I don't mind talking about politics on my podcast because it's wildly small and and has less than 10,000 people viewing and listening every day. So I didn't mind talking about my politics, which probably leans more liberal than some of the viewers and what have you. And I don't appreciate any CEO really who is so attached to a brand but then is so extreme in his personal views. But if the CEO of whatever microphone this is, I don't care. Like I use it because I love this, this microphone. And so, does it matter? No, not really. But even in that moment, my goodness me, my comments filled up with like, oh, if you were here, you'd be voting for Biden and you hate Trump and what have you. And I'm like, wow. Like all I said was that I lean more liberal. But if you look at the poll trackers in many countries, people at the age 20 lean one way, and people when they get older in their lives at 60 and 65 and 70 tend to lean the other way. And I'm halfway between them. So maybe I'm on a political spectrum and journey. I don't know. Maybe I'll change as I age. But even in that moment, people came for me and I have a little podcast about electric cars, and people were like, "Oh my God, I'm unsubscribing because you shouldn't be talking about this." And I'm like, we can still be friends, and I'll talk about my politics. It has nothing to do with anything. So in that little microcosm of an example, I thought, wow, I wish I hadn't bothered now. Who cares? And yet Tesla has a lot on the line. And so should he pipe down? I mean, as Tom says, he's depending on a given day, the richest man in the world. He'll do what he wants, and he doesn't care. So, I mean, it's fine. I don't think you should get too worked up on what he's doing unless it's like a national security threat or something. I don't see that.
Well,
I just see
my viewpoint is just I don't understand what it has to do with the car. Like
Yeah.
that's a person,
Right.
and they
Right,
run.
right.
It obviously has created incredible products,
Mhm.
of which I own a few of them,
Mhm.
and I really enjoy my cars. I don't agree with everything Elon says. I don't disagree with everything Elon says. But like Martin says, that weighs into no opinion about my vehicle. I'm driving a Tesla right now. I mean, I guess I'm thinking about Elon because we're talking about him, but very rarely does that come up. I always review products, and everyone always asks me, like, how can you review? I'm like, I review cars, not people. I'm not, I
Right.
don't really care. So yeah, from my viewpoint is I don't really see why it matters or why it's linked, but a lot of people I know will disagree with me on that.
Well, I mean, we're looking at these sales numbers, and we're thinking about maybe this is one of the, it's been, it's quite. It seems like it in some environments that Elon may be the reason for this. It's a huge drop, and
Well, there's
and
many reasons, but I think a lot of it also come down to the overall health of our economy, what people are spending their money on. Winter's always been the very low season of car buying.
sure,
Yeah, you
sure,
can compare
hmm
quarter over quarter. Interest rates are quite high. And a lot of the early adopters, I think bigger news flash for a lot of people who wanted an EV are already driving an EV. We've had Model 3 out for years, a traditional buying cycle of a vehicle, 3 to 5 years this car's been out now. And so everyone who wanted one bought one, and the cars are lasting a long time. They're not
yeah.
necessarily needing to switch out all the time. So I think now it comes into the bulk of it. Back to the plug-in hybrid conversation though. I don't really like plug-in hybrids. I own a plug-in hybrid. I don't really like it. I mean, I like the car, but I don't like the technology.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of people will buy a plug-in hybrid and go, "Oh, the electric part's the worst part of this. I should just buy a gas car."
It's possible, right? Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, sure.
You
There's a
should
lot
just go
of
and buy a Model Y, which is like, keep coming back to this. Look at this price, 32,990. 32,990. Yeah, rear wheel drive. I know that. Go $3,000 more. I think you can get like the all wheel drive.
Right.
But that's
that's what
stupid.
that's almost as little as what I paid for my 5-year-old used Model 3 last year.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, I know that they've got the ability to do that and cut costs because, like I said, 37,490. Apologies for
Right.
a new one with
Right.
the tax credit if you're eligible on your earnings. But look, that's just that's the deal.
Nuts.
That is such a good deal.
Yeah, we'll have to see like the next quarter. I mean, if things change, if this is like a significant trend, because if it's a trend, I think the board has to act. But if it isn't, then let's carry on and let's get some EVs sold and get people driving. And yeah, but I think Tesla does have to do some work on its brand perception, though, for sure. Because besides putting the Elon part aside, and maybe it's partly because of that, like there's a lot of people, the impression of Tesla as far as like quality goes is like in the toilet, to be honest. I see that so much. It's like a lot of sentiment is really, there's a lot of just a lot of sentiment that's negative towards Tesla in surrounding its reliability and things like that, which some of it may be earned, like they had a lot of panel gaps issues, and still I think maybe some issues with certain vehicles. But man, yeah, it's not like that across the board by any stretch. And sometimes like bad examples are cherry picked, and see, this is how bad it is. This happened,
The quality's
But-
much better, I think, across the board
Right,
than it
right.
was years ago, Dom. I don't
Sure.
think that's really a big issue anymore.
Right, but
from
the
what I've
perception-
experienced, at least, yeah.
Just the perception of of certain parts of the population. That's just where their head is at right now. Maybe that's a small enough.
Perception's not always reality. It's
True.
just saying what I was referencing before when I was talking about some of the videos about lightning failing and driving 100 miles up a hill when it's 4 degrees out, towing 10,000 pounds. That's what the perception people came away from the truck was that this thing doesn't work. So it's hard. Those perceptions live on. They don't just go away. Tesla, did come out early on with the having a lot of quality control issues, and that's not going to go away in a year or two, even though their quality is much better at this point.
Right. Darren Brazil says Model Y is not necessarily the best EV anymore. There are a lot of great vehicles now.
It is for 35,000.
It is for the price. Like we're talking like the value, what you get for the money, like the value proposition. It's I don't know. I think it's kind of unbeatable. I don't know.
We all agree to that here.
I mean, yeah.
On the podcast,
But
at least.
But anyway, we can leave that discussion now. We're past it. Yeah, we haven't done a show this late in a while. So I guess anything else you want to mention? There's a few. Man.
No,
So-
I'm just glad. I'm just glad Tom's alive and that
right?
we got through today.
Right. I just
Yeah,
want to
that
mention
was
this.
pretty wild. Jeez.
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Wow.
There's just one news thing I did want to mention real quick. NIO, the Chinese automaker, rolls out its first mass-produced 150 kilowatt-hour semi-solid battery pack. They're going to put it in battery swapping things. So this is the new CATL pack. It charges super fast, but it's also quite energy dense. It's 360 watt-hours a kilogram. The cells at the cell level, which is really like we do 280 here, mostly in this what we do in the States. So the difference between 280 and 360 watt hours per kilogram, it's a nice improvement, and lets you put 150 kilowatt hours in a platform. Anyway, I just want to mention that because it's kind of a big deal. I think it's one of those little things you want to take note of. It'll probably be coming to Europe, where you are, and
Yeah.
But we can talk about that more in the future, because that brings us to the end of today's show. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below or get in touch with us on the social media platform of your choice. We are everywhere. Don't forget, if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up, click subscribe, tap that bell icon for notifications so you don't miss any of our midweek shows. Thank you all very much for joining us again. It's been wonderful hanging out with y'all, and we'll see you again very soon. Ciao.
And we can play out with this.
That is going to be all over the news. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
State of charge right there on every news network.
Shake of charge.
Shake of charge. State of shake.